I'm an entrepreneur. I sit on board of a few companies involved in energy, construction, agriculture within Nigeria and outside of Nigeria. I would like to dive straight in. What we're looking to do today is to, one, understand what innovation is all about. Two, we're also trying to understand this in African context. Three, we also want to come up with a solution to a problem in Africa. I believe just by going through all of these slides, the reason why we are here is we're trying to look for solutions. If you wake a 10-year-old up today in Africa, they probably will tell you most of the problems in Africa. I think we need to start to talk about solutions. Now, we move into the introduction. Now, the African story of poverty, education, hunger, violence, ill health, food security, access to finance, and low rates of economic growth remains one of the biggest challenges in Africa. Innovation and development is the key to unlocking the solutions to the narrative. However, the biggest challenge I see in Africa is the non-existence of cooperation amongst key players. Innovation can make a difference in addressing urgent developmental challenges, such as providing access to drinking water, eradicating neglected diseases, or reducing hunger. It's shocking that we are in the 21st century, and in a lot of places in Africa, drinking water is still a problem. For people who are in Lagos, they probably think drinking water should not be a problem, but you'll be amazed at what's going on. The transfer and, when necessary, adaptation of technologies developed in developed countries, we refer to them sometimes as the West, can often contribute significantly to these goals. Effective international cooperation that involves both public, private bodies is an important mechanism for finding these much needed solutions. Now, a lot of countries have recognized that innovation is not just about high technology products, and that innovation capacity must be built early in the development process in order to possess the learning capacities that will allow catch up. Some people will say to you that Africa, we're trying to catch up, but I believe we're not trying to catch up. Africa, we are trying to innovate. Our systems are different, our cultures are different. So Africa's problem needs to be fixed in an African way, based on our own unique characteristics and setup. Now, they also need innovation capacity and local innovation to address challenges specific to local contexts. And this goes without saying. If you are in Europe, for example, and you're African, you would realize that if you come into UK today with malaria, you would struggle to find a hospital that would treat you. They literally will turn you into a lab rat because it's not something they are used to seeing on a regular basis. So it means that for you to treat malaria right, innovation needs to come from within Africa. And that's just what we have to do. Now, ultimately, a successful development strategy must build extensive innovation capacity to foster growth. Now, the story of innovation encompasses two elements. And prior to the beginning of this course, we were having a conversation about what should be done to help with innovation in Nigeria. I think a lot of people on this call will probably be Nigerians. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody who is not Nigerian, please just send a message in the chat so we don't assume we're all Nigerians. Now, one, we need to increase the productivity of the economy at its current stage. Two, structurally transform the economy. Now, this has, from a policy standpoint, practical implications. One, what do we do to the income we get right now as a country? Are we planning for tomorrow? Do we have what it takes to go into the next 20 years? Have we laid the foundation to ensure that we're able to take advantage of our population? Have we done things to ensure that generations after us, they have something to fall back on? So those are key questions we need to look at for innovation for Africa. There are countries in the world that have trillions of dollars stored up for generations unborn. Norway, for example, they have over $1 trillion stored up. Nigeria's reserve, as the last time I'm aware, is just about 33 billion for a population of over 200 million people. So as part of innovation, we need to start to think about what we are going to do to ensure that we are not living just for today, but we are living for tomorrow. And these are some of the things we need to look at. Now, what is innovation? Now, before I give us some sort of expo, can anybody tell me what they think innovation is? Anybody in the class? I don't want to call names, but I will if I have to.
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm just going to take a shot here. I think innovation is bringing creative ideas to life in a commercially viable way. So it's a bit different than invention. So innovation is doing it in a commercially viable way. It's all about creativity and then bringing it to life. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer, for that question. I can see somebody, is there somebody raising their hands? Please, anybody else can comment. What's innovation? What's your understanding of innovation?
Okay, I would say my understanding of innovation is trying to improve on what's already, as in something that is already existing before, improving on it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Georgette Alaba. Thank you. Does anybody else want to try this? Anybody?
Samuel, you can talk.
Okay. It's actually has to do with practical or workable implementation of ideas that translates into goods that are necessary to move the society forward, like new goods, could be new cars, improving the status quo of an economy.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, Samuel. You've all defined innovation. Innovation, it's simply put, trying to solve society's problem in a way that is unique to the society and bringing every actor into the room. Now, Jennifer mentioned something, innovation. Some people will say, what's the difference between invention and innovation? You can invent something today. If it cannot get to the marketplace, then you really can't call it an innovation. So it stays just as an invention. And for most of the things you've seen today in the world, that it has been to the marketplace and you can buy, it's more of innovation. And I'll give an easy example. I was reading a story someday about how ice. A lot of us right now, if we want to say have a drink, we'll say, oh, go into the freezer, and then you get ice blocks, and then you drop into your cup. Now that is the journey for that. It's unbelievable because it started from people going to physically cut ice during the winter and selling it. And then from there, it moved on to, so imagine somebody going to do that and focusing their business on just going to cut ice during winter and selling it. And that's their whole business model. And then it moved on from there into people having ice factory. And from there, we can all have ice just in the freezer, in the house. So there's been various changes over the years, and innovation does not necessarily mean it has to be a brand new idea. It can be an existing idea, but finding a way to make things better. So definition. So we said innovation, let's start. Sorry, I need to move this out of my way. Innovation is the process of creating and putting into use combination of knowledge from different or multiple sources to create development impacts, commercialization of invention. That's like a summary of what innovation is. Now, research creates knowledge and technology. The process of innovation goes further to include putting that knowledge into use. So it simply means that for whatever knowledge you've got, if you cannot apply it and find a way to make it to solve a problem in the society where it's in the marketplace, you can't call it an innovation. Now, innovating involves multiple actors. We spoke about that at the beginning, working together as elements of the same system. Innovation is a new or essentially improved product, process, market, raw material or organization arrangement. New inventions emerge every day, but an invention becomes an innovation only if it is implemented and applied successfully in the marketplace and in the society. Now, for innovation to work, you need to create a system out of it. Now, an innovation system comprises organization, enterprise, individuals that together demand, supply knowledge and technology, and the rules and mechanism by which these actors interact. So it's more of a full chain where there is various interactions between various organizations, various individuals, just to solve society's problem. Now, a well-functioning innovation system is supported by critical mass of human capital in a well-structured organizational and institutional setting. A lot of times for innovation to get into the marketplace, you need the backing of either a government or institution for it to get into the marketplace. And it is important that there is good interaction between all of the actors. And I want us to find a way to understand this, that there is no way innovation would work if all the principal actors don't work together. Now, so most successful innovations, they emerge from specific geographical areas, predominantly in the areas of global north. So when we say global north, we're referring to the West, we're referring to the UK, we're referring to the US, but most people I've not been to Silicon Valley before, but the moment you hear the word, somebody says, oh, I've gone to Silicon Valley, you understand that, oh, they are either in the tech space or they are doing something around technology. So for various regions of the world, they are known for innovating in specific way. China, for example, has a region, the Jiangsu province is known for the province as a province where if you're looking for innovation, if you're looking for something that will change the world, you go in there. Has anybody ever heard of that province before? You can just indicate via chat. So what's a typical starting point for innovation? A lot of times, people who we refer to as entrepreneur are usually the ones that try to look at the problem of the society using a different lens and saying, listen, we need to change the way this works. Bill Gates, for example, decided that I've made enough, he's made enough money. It's time for him to start to solve the world's problem. And that's why, the Gates Foundation is doing a lot in Africa, trying to use technology, trying to use knowledge to solve the problems we have all around us. But the key here is that for whatever idea, for whatever opportunity or threat we see, it is important to form alliances. It is important to form partnership, because it's from those alliances, it's from those partnerships we can get the resources, access to markets. It's from there we can learn what other people have done in the past. Now, innovation, it's important to state this. Failing, it's all part of innovation. I know some people would be shocked to say, oh, so it's okay to fail. Yes, it is okay to fail. You just find a way to, you need to learn how not to fail. And that's what innovation helps you to do. You're learning by understanding what's going on. And it's important that we are able to come together in whatever partnerships or in whatever alliances for us to achieve great things within innovation space. Now, what prevents innovation in Africa? When we started this training, we spoke about the fact that for a lot of things we see in Africa, we are unable to speak with one voice. We don't understand the vision. And even when people state the vision is not clear. So lack of self-organization by the key actors is the main impediment to innovation. And this is in turn attributed to high risk, weak incentives, highly dynamic context, existing institutional arrangement discourage self-organization. I think I heard in the news of recent of the Central Bank of Nigeria banning some close. I think they said there's restriction on some fintechs bank account. You don't, in the West, you don't, there are certain actions that the central bank of those countries don't take, because when you take such actions, it has some sort of multiply effect. It discourages innovation because it's the younger population that is trying to drive innovation the way we see it now in Africa. And it is important that policy supports them. It is important that the institution of government supports them. It is important that even where there are issues within the setup, within those innovation hubs or within those organizations, It is important that those issues are dealt with in a level where it does not discourage innovation in whatever shape or form. Crypto, for example, some people see it as a threat, but people didn't believe it's going to be here. It is here to stay. So as a nation, for example, Nigeria, we still don't have a policy for crypto. The policy we've simply just said, listen, we don't understand it, so you can't use it. But then the world is using it. So we shouldn't be playing catch up with the world. In fact, we should step right in front of it and try to understand it and try to engage, try to make the people who we believe would use it understand how to use it better to ensure that we are able to get the best value as a country. Now, for innovation, there are modes of innovation, and it's important that we go through these modes before we start to talk about the African context in detail. Now, just as people have different learning style, there are different modes of innovation that can take place within a local community, organization, country, or region. These modes of innovation help identify strengths and weaknesses in innovation management. Commonly, we refer to two modes of innovation. One, science, technology, and innovation, that's STI, and doing, using, and interacting. And these two modes of innovation refer to different forms of knowledge. I will go into the forms of knowledge so that we are able to differentiate. Now, there are four main forms of knowledge. One, know what, basic understanding and information about the world. So, for example, watering a tree makes it grow. Most people understand that concept. You know what. Know why. The know why is scientific understanding of laws and principles that govern the what. For example, the chemical reactions that cause water to make a tree grow. And these are some lessons that we get to pick up from education. Know how. Know how is less interested in why it happens than that it happens. So it's more of a set of skills and competency acquired through experience. So by watering a tree in a specific way at specific times, it helps it to grow best. And you are able to figure that out over time based on the fact that you are doing it over and over again. And there are lessons learned from practicals. And that's why at the end of this, what we want to try to do is to pick a problem in Nigeria or Africa and try to create a solution for it. Now, know who, and this part is important. Personal relationship with others, knowledge acquired through a community and social skills of how to utilize, interact with a community, or, for example, a network of knowledgeable tree growers that exchange tips to help each other grow better trees. Now, typically in a lot of African society, you have organizations, they would say, for example, Transport Workers Union, just for argument's sake. So what should they be doing? They should find a way to, educate one another on how best to do what they do. And it's important that that is done for you to be able to achieve innovation. If I'm going too fast, please let me know in the comment section. Now, important aspects of know what and know why may be obtained through reading books, attending lectures, and accessing databases. The two other categories are more rooted in practical experience. So from what we've just talked about, we're saying that the only way innovation can work is for you to have the knowledge and for you to have the practical. And when you have a synergy of both, then you can get innovation. So important aspects of know what, know why may be obtained through reading books, attending lectures, and accessing database. The two other categories we have said are more rooted in practical experience. Understanding these forms of knowledge allow us to have a conversation about the two modes of innovation, which is STI and DUI, which draws on different forms of knowledge. Now, STI innovation is based on scientific knowledge, the know why, and the formalize know what. STI knowledge is explicit knowledge, meaning it can be written down, it can be codified, and understood by others who read it. So you can pick up a book and say, oh, I'm trying to innovate. Let me read this, carry out this research. If I read this, if I read that, understand what other people have done based on what has been written down, then we can find a way to innovate. Now, DUI innovation is based on experiential knowledge, the know-how and know-who, often called learn by doing. DUI knowledge is implicit or tacit knowledge, meaning it is understood without being stated. And in fact, might not truly make sense if stated. So for example, you want to ride a bicycle and you just pick a bicycle up and you're just trying to ride it. You may not be able to explain it, but somehow you find yourself on motion, running. Okay, so when you combine DUI and STI, it's the best structure for innovation. The biggest lesson for this purpose is that innovation requires a combination of various factors that must be taken into consideration for innovation to achieve its objective. Failure is part of innovation, as I said previously. I would like us to watch a video. I'm going to stop sharing this slide. And I found that video interesting. I want us to talk about it shortly. I'll stop that. While I'm trying to bring this video up, I think we can start to have conversations about our experience on innovation. So who wants to go first in the class? What's your experience on innovation before we watch that video? I don't want to call names. Who's going to start? Nonso? Is Nonso still here? Because we started a conversation prior to the beginning of the class. Can you all still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I was trying to unmute myself for a bit. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Nonso.
Okay, so just to confirm the question you're asking, what's an example of innovation, right?
So the question I'm asking is, what's your experience innovation? Your experience on innovation. So personal experience, if there's something you think you've been in a project you've been involved in that talks about innovation, what is it?
Well, off the top of my head, really, I think I'll just use Song Africa as an example, even though it's a work in progress. But I find the fact that we're working on an application that would be
of all the companies on the Fortune 5.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying that I find the fact that we're working on, or we have conceptualized and we're designing an application that will be a collaborative platform, for sharing solutions to the challenges in Africa. I find that very innovative, because what we're used to in this part of the world really is talking about our problems, identifying the problems that we have, and even coming up with solutions off the top of our head. But taking it a step further to actually implement the solutions, to come up, to actually work out an implementable plan, forgive my English, but that for me is so innovative. So in my conversations with, for instance, the app developer who's working out the framework, and every other person who is playing a part to ensure that this project comes to life, I've been thinking about it and amazed at how just an idea can change the world. So we have this application, and from this application, there can be white paper documents that are released to the public for us to pick a sector and then identify the challenges in that sector and then come up with solutions. It's just like Facebook, how Facebook changed the world. So it's an app that has a potential to change Africa in terms of providing solutions. For me, that's innovative. Even though it's a work in progress, I find that to be one of the most innovative projects that I'm currently working on in this season. Yes.
Thank you very much, Nonso, for your perspective on innovation. And
Can I add to what Nonso said? Sorry,
Okay.
everyone. Yeah, just my own personal experience on what my own idea of innovation, just using my everyday working skills. So looking at it, like if, say you were given, as in you were being employed to, as in a job role, and you go for training, like you, just like what Mr. Rafa was talking about with the STI and the DUI. So when you are training, the STI is the textbook approach to everything in the training and all that. And then the DUI is when you start the job itself and you are doing it like you coin your own way, as in your own easy way to be around, as in to go around the job role, to make it easier and faster for you. So that personally, like from my own experience, that's the way that's what I think about when I think about innovation, how I can like coin my own way to like make the job easy for me and do it effectively. Yeah, right. That's it.
I think to now add to what Alaba has shared, right? To sort of buttress further on my point earlier. So one of the challenges I had when I started working on this particular application, the project, was I realized that I didn't understand the technical terms, because I'm not a technology-oriented person, and we're talking about designing an app here. And so I found I was lost sometimes when we have meetings. I just didn't understand the terms that were being used. So what I did was I went online and I read, an overview of what it means to design an app. And I realized that from then on, it was easy for me to talk about the application. It was easy for me to understand what was being said. And now in hindsight, I realized that I was being innovative in my approach to tackling the challenge, that I had at the time. End of my contribution.
Okay, somebody raised Omo Tolani Ajala.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good day, good morning. So from my own personal experience on innovation, I like to use my career field as an example. I'm a public health practitioner, and I've been textbook from training. They tell us vaccines are supposed to be stored. They have these like coolers, not really coolers, but they are specially made for vaccines just to protect them. But we got to a stage where we're now like implementing the old training idea, and we ran out. We had situations where community didn't have enough of these, custom-made. I've forgotten the name. I'm trying to either box. So we didn't have enough. What did we do? We had to, use all these particulars, put foam inside. We had to come up with something because we had to work and children had to be immunized, going from streets to communities to town, and we had a timeline. We were working with a goal. We had 4 days to reach targets, to vaccinate like close to 90,000 children or more. So we just had to, we had to tell some of the team members to just bring your coolers, pad it with foams, protect the vaccine very well, put the ice packs. And we had to give them like a time frame, and the job was done. When they could send, because they come up with solution at this point, which was the custom made, to make what we have around. So that's solving the problem with what we have at hand. So that's one of my personal experiences on innovation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those experiences. Does anybody else want to go? We have time for 2 more people.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi. So let me share my own experience with innovation. A few years ago, the company I was with became channel partners with some IP owners for ERP technology, which is basically just technology to manage your business processes differently and more efficiently. And so we became channel partners to resell these technologies in Nigeria. That was innovative on our own end, in the sense that we're trying to do things differently to help people meet their financial targets and strategic goals by deploying technology. But then we met a few bottlenecks in Nigeria. I raised a few questions as to how ready the country is to, embrace some of these innovative technologies that are available today. You raised a few questions. It didn't go as planned, but then it helped us to look in different directions. So I'd say that was my experience with innovation. It was more from a marketing point of view, but I was able to pick up the lingo, like someone just mentioned here on the talk today, how difficult it was to transition to technology projects because of their lingo and a few, other things. It was a nice experience. I say that's my experience with innovation, ERP systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. Who else is on there? I can call Tega. Is Tega still with us?
Yes, I am. Good evening from Bayelsa, Nigeria. Yes, sir. Okay, very brief as regards my own. There's this little company I and my wife have thought out, and right now we're still on the execution stage, where we render services to the dry cleaners you contract, not to the end user. Okay, so it's a way of easing their own job process for them. Over here in Bayelsa, Nigeria, we have dilapidating power supply issues all over. Personally, one of the reasons why we even came up with this idea is because we were spending time with my in-laws and we realized that Popsy-in-law and Momsy-in-law were always having these small issues about his clothes not being ready at when he needs it. So when we fall back to the cleaner, he has generator issue, he has fuel issue, and he just a one man. And where the area where we stay, where our own house is built, is around the LNG axis, in Bayelsa. There is constant power there. So we thought out, why not look for something to do to ease this guy's job rather than having them disappoint their customers often, frequently. So we came up with the idea, and I've been doing market survey, talking to these dry cleaners. Most of them are interested. Some of them are not interested because of the cost of it. So it's still a work in progress. By the time we are able to come to an understanding with all the dry cleaners, we see where we can help them ease their work by way of doing that, get paid for it, and make the end customer, the owner of the clothes, happy and have their products delivered to them on time. So if we're able to do that successfully, I think that's a step towards making life easier. Thank you.
Thank you, Tega. What you're saying is you found a problem in the society and you're trying to innovate to solve that problem.
Yes.
Thank you for that contribution. Who else is on the call that wants to make a contribution before we see this video and talk about it? Anybody? Let me see, what do I know? Ose, do you want to talk about your experience? Is she still here? Okay, let's move on. So let's see this video. I found the video very interesting.
In the year 2000, more than half no longer exist.
Sorry, can we all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Digital transformation isn't just a good idea. It's a matter of corporate survival. Enterprise AI enables organizations to use artificial intelligence at enterprise scale, solving previously unsolved.
You have a culture you describe in your book, which is very unique. And let me just go through a couple of things you say that I found stunning as somebody who's helped to run a company myself that's publicly traded. For example, you have a system where people can take whatever vacation they want to take. There's no limit. People can take any time off they want, no limit. Where did you get that idea from?
Well, in the industrial economy, like factories, we measured people by how many hours they did on the job. 9 to 5, 8 to 6, whatever that is. And we really want people to focus on ideas, on generating important work. And so, we don't measure them during the day. We don't clock our people in. And if we're not going to tell whether someone is working 5 to 9 or 9 to 5, which is a 2-to-1 difference in hours, why are we tracking whether they do 50 weeks or 48 weeks a year, of work? That's in the noise. And so unlimited vacation, is sort of like saying, dress how you want, and then people still don't come to work naked. There's some cultural assumptions about appropriate clothing for work, and we don't need to specify that. And in the same way with vacation, people understand getting work done and they get to live more flexibly.
Okay. Well, you also say in your book, you don't have to please at your company, your boss. In other words, you can go ahead and do what you think is best, and your boss doesn't agree, that's okay. Is that easy to run a company that way?
Again, we're really focused on inspiration over supervision. So the traditional paradigm is that good management is close management, sets objectives, manages tightly, and all of that's appropriate in safety critical environments, airlines, producing vaccines, et cetera. But in a creative business, you don't care so much about what goes wrong. You care about enough of the right things get done. And so we really focus on inspiring our people and having it be very open and collaborative. And from that, you get amazing technical innovation and you get amazing content innovation.
Thank you. Now we can.
Do you spend hours scanning through trading charts? Do you end up drowning in indicators telling you conflicting information? Do you
move back to our slide? So, does anybody want to comment on that video? Can you all still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So what do you think? So the person talking is representing Netflix. Netflix as an organization believe that the culture of 9 to 5, or making people to sit at the desk within a particular period of time, they believe that it doesn't necessarily help with innovation. And it's important that for them, they believe that as long as people understand what to do, they're encouraged to think differently. They're encouraged to have different opinions. They believe that through that, they would get the best out of those employees, and you can truly innovate. Do we agree to this, to this system of working?
Yeah, I think generally it will work, as in that system of working will work, because at the end of the day, you're not boxing people in a limited time, as in limiting their time. Because sometimes, like being innovative, like a light bulb, you can have a light bulb moment at any time. If you keep researching and keep looking into things. But if you are restricted to like a 9 to 5, your brain is already programmed that, okay, between this time and this time, this is your work time. And after 5, like your brain is already shut down, like, okay, this is not a work time, so I can use it to like chill and not do anything. But whereas if you have that unlimited time, like you're not boxed with the 9 to 5 restriction, you can, there's this thing that, there's this phrase that catches me, like dare to dream. Like your dreams can go wild. You can make your dream go wild. You can think far and wide. And while you're thinking far and wide, you can aim to achieve so much. I don't know if you get what I mean. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yes, I think we understand you clearly, Georgette. Yes.
So I think that's the concept, as in they just want people to be very innovative and to come up with their own ideas. That's why they are not boxing them. I think that's the dream he's striving to get. That's what I think.
Thank you, Georgette, for that contribution. Does anybody else want to make a comment about that video? I don't want to call names in the class.
Let's call Adekunle. Adekunle, we haven't heard your voice today. He hasn't. Well, okay, if he's going to, I think you should share. You always have interesting thoughts. For me, I would say that, of course, I subscribe to that mode of working, because I mean, if there's anything that COVID did for all of us, was just to demystify that entire 9 to 5 system. Because I mean, a lot of people have, suffered from fatigue, but we've just, just try to keep it going, especially in Lagos, where you have some people spend 4 to 5 hours trying to get to work and then spend another 4 to 5 hours trying to go back home, So I think that allowing people the freedom to work in their own preferred hours increases creativity and innovation. And I am a believer in work at any time that works for you, so long as you deliver. I'm fine with it. Adekunle has raised his hand. Adekunle, please go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Raphael.
Good evening, Adekunle.
Yeah, I think the main thing I get from that video is giving people the free spirit, making them to be free, even while they're at work. They know they are under, they have a boss, they have somebody who is supervising them. Still, they are meant to have this free spirit so that they can be able to explore, think outside of the box. And in such an environment, I mean, people can be put to their best use. I mean, they can get the best of their potential. So that's the main thing I get from that video, just allowing people to be free, giving them this free spirit. That's just the little I get from the video. Thank you.
Thank you, Adekunle. Anybody else want to make a comment on that video?
Hi everyone, good evening. I think it was an interesting take in the video on freedom of innovation due to, not necessitating your staff having to come to the office every day, 9 to 5. But I also think it was a niche view. I think it wouldn't fly, it wouldn't work in some settings. For example, some people, their definition of innovation is them having to be at the lab or having to work with machinery that necessitates them being on site every day. And so I guess it would depend on what your own definition of innovation is and what your output is expected to be from your staff. And if everyone was taking that flexible stance to say, I am giving my staff the freedom to not have to come in every day, then you'd need to have stuff like internal controls and checks and measures in place just to be sure that everyone is hitting their targets in as much as everyone is flexible at the same time. So I think it was an interesting take, but it should be really looked at before just embracing fully. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer, for that comment. Any other person wants to make a comment on the video? Okay, I think we should move along. Now, the interesting part for that video is that it sort of distinguishes between the tech industry and the manufacturing industry. And it was specific to say that, listen, yes, this will work within the tech industry, but manufacturing and the others, obviously they're what they need to achieve is different. People that need to be on the field, they need to be on the field. People that need to be involved in various processes need to be involved in various processes. But all in all, the message is how you need to find a system that works for your organization to innovate. That's the message. The message is find a system that works for your organization, find a system that works for your country, find a system that works for your continent. So now, without taking so much of our time, we can now try to move on to innovation and development in the African context. So I'm going to talk about a few things within that space. And what I'm going to try to do is to bring in maybe two slides of what I've done personally in trying to solve the problems we have in Nigeria. Now, Africa is undergoing a profound transformation that is changing the lives of hundreds of millions of people on the continent. Yes, we have rapid urbanization, demographic growth, migration. There are more people in Lagos than there are 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Now, all of that would do something. It will bring people together all within one plot. And hopefully, if the human capital is harnessed properly, then you should have lots of innovation within that space. And I think we're having a few people trying to solve problems within the finance space with various sort of payment platforms now in Nigeria. You have system specs. You have a few people within that space just trying to do great things. But the key here is you would see that when at the beginning of the lecture, we said typically innovation starts out with entrepreneur, but for innovation to be successful within Africa, the institutions within the country need to have a clear vision as to what needs to be done. And not until that happens, all we would get to see is pockets of innovation here and there, but it's something that needs to become part of us as a continent, that we want to see our continent do better. We want to see we want to try and, eradicate poverty. We want to try and eradicate hunger in some form. We want good healthcare. We want good education. And by the way, we're going to pick up on one of the problems in Africa tonight and try to find a way to solve it by coming together to provide solutions. So we believe that over the next 10 years, it's going to be interesting for Africa. And we believe that there'll be various changes. Now, the continent and the world, we believe, will not be the same over the next 10 years. And we believe that for the next 10 to 20 years, it will determine what's going to happen in Africa. So this platform is one of the best platforms we can try to engage right now to ensure that we are able to get involved in the process of bringing change that we believe we need in Africa. And that's how we can really truly innovate and bring about development in Africa. Now, in Africa, it is important to acknowledge different knowledge bases and development needs in the context of developing innovation. Innovation development is a social process that can be supported with adequate policy. So it is important that the nation, the continent, puts in place policy, clear direction. Dubai did not just all of a sudden become what it is. Singapore did not just all of a sudden become what it is. There was clarity as to purpose. There was clarity as to vision. There was clarity as to what needs to be achieved. I remember way back, and I can look back to history. During the Babangida era, they started off with things like Mansa, D-Free, and stuff like that. You see, everybody comes up with what they believe the country should focus on, and by the time they leave, that template is thrown into the bin. Somebody else tries to come up with a different template. Now, what happens typically is it's difficult to pass this message across. Now, we've talked about STI, we've talked about DUI. Now we understand that it is important that what needs to be achieved is clear in terms of what the solution is. You need to wake up from a 5-year-old needs to understand the country is moving towards this direction. This is what the country is looking to achieve. This is what the continent is looking to achieve. And hopefully by doing that, we can get to see people starting to think about innovative ways to achieve all of those objectives. So we're saying to achieve more sustainable society in Africa, the focus must be on inclusive innovation and transformative innovation policy. Inclusive innovation contains the implementation of novel ideas to create opportunities for economic and social well-being of the poor and help in tackling societal grand challenges. So if you're looking to innovate, it is important that this is solving a problem. Yes, innovation can, we talked about the fact that it needs to be commercialized, but it should solve a problem in the society. Now, when it solves a problem in the society, then we can get the best out of that innovation, and that innovation can truly make money. Now, African countries, regions, and institutions still follow what we call the resource-dependent and commodity-driven developmental pathways. What that simply means is, in our development strategies, many African countries just aim to move from their current economic dominance of agriculture to industry. People just want to say, oh, create industries, and then hopefully you can, but we can't always follow the path of the West. We need to follow our own, we need to look at our own solutions that are unique to our own environment. And that's when we can truly innovate. So nevertheless, it's been argued that several African countries could skip industrialization and leapfrog directly to the knowledge economy. Therefore, an innovation system in an African country must be organized differently than in more economically and technological advantaged countries. The reason is the challenges the West that they face in the West is different from what we face in Africa. And it is important that whatever we're looking to do, we need to take into consideration our own unique circumstances and characteristics. Now, a major challenge in the formation of innovation system in African countries is the organizational and institutional thinness of innovation system in Africa. And what does this mean? Organizational thinness is this absence or insufficient quality and number of skilled individuals or critical mass in companies, R&D laboratories, universities, governments, associations, unions, or any other organizations relevant for innovation process. In the West, for example, I was, and just as an example, I was speaking to somebody earlier today about trying to get a university that is at the forefront of leading climate change and the energy transition journey. And we don't have any. In Nigeria, that is at the forefront doing research that is unique to us, we don't. So now what happens? Typically what then happens is we go to the West, we look at what they are doing, we borrow what they are doing and try to sort of bring it into our own system. A lot of times, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, because our challenges are different. If you want to, for example, if you want wind energy today in Nigeria, I'm not sure that you will get a lot of places on land where it will work, but if you put it offshore, yes, it will work. Whereas in the UK, or in a lot of places in Europe, you have a lot of wind turbines in lots of places that is not just on water offshore somewhere because of their environment. So for whatever we're doing, we need to remember that. Now, the knowledge exchange between actors from different sectors is very limited. So back to what we said at the beginning, there needs to be cooperation, there needs to be agreement between the actors, various actors within various innovation hubs and people trying to innovate, because you need to be able to exchange ideas, learn from each other. The people who have failed in trying to achieve something, you need to understand why they have failed. You need to try to take it a step further. As we said previously, we said that innovation does not necessarily mean you're generating a brand new idea. It may mean that, yes, the idea is there, but you're saying, let us do things better. Do we understand all we've talked about so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So some examples, for example, Aerobotics is a company in South Africa. It's a drone software company that developed data analysis platform based on artificial intelligence, AI, to help farmers optimize their activity. So what are they doing? They're trying to solve a problem in the society, but using technology. Another example is Ethiopia. They have Ethiopian Safe Delivery app. And this app, I find this very interesting. This app helps to coach women to give birth. I've never seen anything like that before. App coaching people to help other people to give birth. And why is this happening? Because they don't have a lot of healthcare systems that work. Now, will that app work in Europe? If you're trying to sell it in Europe, I don't think so, because they have good healthcare system. Now, innovation must be developed systematically, and the innovation system is a tool to achieve this. Many African countries have launched an innovation system as part of their national innovation policy. However, in many cases, the main structure and content of a given innovation system has been loaned, if not copied, from wealthier, economical, and technological more advanced countries. We've spoken about that sometimes, I think there was something that was in the news at the time where a particular law was copied word for word from Singapore, and somebody was trying to introduce it as a bill in Nigeria. Now, you would ask a question, will it work? What are the challenges in Singapore? Is it the same challenges in Nigeria? The law in Singapore is to solve a problem. Will that law solve the same problem? Will it solve the problems in Nigeria? Maybe, maybe not. So now that's to give us a flavor of what innovation is within the African context. To say, listen, the key actors in Africa, we need to find a way to work together to ensure that the places where innovation can start, there is policy in place to help growth, and that the actors understand clearly what needs to be achieved. I would love to hear our government someday come out to have a clear policy on innovation for Nigeria for the next 50 years, where children are educated on what that policy is. Every age group within the country has clarity on what it is. And I believe not until we're able to achieve that, we will probably just be seeing pockets of brilliance here and there within the African context. Now, I want to try and move into my own personal experience of what I've tried to do, with innovation. So we, at some point, we looked at the fact that people assume that everybody in Nigeria has GSM, and that everywhere in Nigeria there's GSM coverage. But in truth, not everywhere have that coverage. So if everywhere doesn't have coverage, what can you do to ensure that you're able to get data from the most remote place you can think of in Nigeria to the city? How can you ensure that you have data on who is living in one particular street in a location? How can you have data on the number of children born in that location? And when we're talking about trying to do what our population is, data has become a big problem. You see some places that have water, it's difficult to go there. What can you do? How can you get data better? How can you ensure that that data is then used by people who want to innovate and create things that can solve the problem of the society? So one of the participants on this course said they had to go somewhere. They didn't have like coolers to store, at certain temperature. But before going there, if they were aware of those challenges, they would be able to prepare better. They will be able to be a lot more effective. And that's one of the things we're talking about with innovation. Now, within my own space, what we try to do is we got in touch with a particular company called Head, and we said, listen, we understand that there is a gap in the GSM system in the country. How can we ensure that within the country, we're able to get data within the country to any location within the country, and we hooked up to some sort of constellation. And this constellation is easy to install. You don't need, you can literally pack it in your bag. You install somewhere and it feeds whatever data you need. You can use it on the pipeline, you can use it on the house, you can use it on anything. The sensors gather the data, it goes right into the cloud somewhere, and it feeds right into the satellites. And those data is then used to create things that solve the problems of the society. Now, don't mind all the jargons you see on here. Simply put, all it is the Chinese, for example, they fully understand some of the problems in Africa because they've been involved in trying to do a lot of things in different sectors. And some of the things they've come up with is things like this, where they are able to use their satellites to send and receive data from any location in the world, from even sites that don't have electricity. Some of these antennas just use a battery that can last for as long as 3 years, 4 years. They don't need to change it. And that's what you can do to really bring about change within your space. Now, what is the application of these data? How can you use this? How can we use this data gathered in any location to innovate? The data, you can use it in healthcare. If you have data on what's happening in almost every location in the country, it's easy for you to plan if you're trying to make intervention in those locations. 1. 2, these data will tell you or give you an idea of the size of the population within that area, within that space. So when thinking about innovation, you're trying to say, can we use this to solve a problem? Sensors, you can use it to solve that problem. People tampering with pipeline, you can use it to solve that problem. Logistics, which is a major nightmare in the country. When you want to do logistics planning, for example, you can use data like this to understand the road terrain, literally from the north to the south. You can map the route, understand the terrain, and be able to plan and say, this truck moving from Kano to Lagos, these are the obstacles it will face. How can we ensure that the goods gets to where it needs to go to at XYZ time? So the moment you're able to plan your journey better, you're making, 1, people have better access to goods, better access to service. What does that do for our economy? It naturally helps our economy to grow. Do we understand that?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll share one more thing on agriculture, and then we will pick a problem. Somebody will need to suggest a problem, and then we try to find a solution to that problem today. Okay. Now, there was a particular point in time where we got involved with a particular problem within the North in particular. If you look at the way we've always done agriculture, we've not really applied technology to help us do agriculture better. And what did we do as a company, as part of the companies where I sit? we partner with a company called Digital Globe, and we realized that they have satellites up in the sky, and their satellites can see up to 3 centimeters. So what did we say they should do with the satellite? The satellite, we said, listen, we need the satellite to be able to help agriculture. We need to be able to see where all of these farmlands are. We need to be able to see whether whether they are doing well. We need to be able to see how the farmland is interacting with the weather. We need to be able to predict and say, oh, at so time, it's better to plant. So back to DUI, we said, when you do over and over again, you're able to get a body of knowledge and you're able to predict and say, oh, when you plant in April, you get the best yield. When you plant in September, you get the best yield. But what we're saying is, because of climate change and a lot of things, you need better predictability. You need to be able to ensure that people don't die of hunger in your nation. So if you want to solve that problem, the farmers on the farm, you need to find a way to help them so that whatever they have on their farm, they understand that this is how they can get the best yield on their farm. And I would show us. So what can you do? You identify the key areas that have got the best land. You analyze, and this is all using satellites. The satellite is able to tell you and determine the crop, the best crop for that land. So because you're in Lagos, you assume that, oh, Lagos, nobody is doing farming, but the satellite is able to tell you, listen, if you plant this in Lagos, this crop will grow because of the uniqueness of their soil. And all of this is done just using the benefit of the satellite. Assess crop health. From the satellite, you can see whether the crops, they are doing well or they are not doing well. You can establish whether, oh, it's the weather that is affecting them. And easily, human intervention can come into play where you're then able to use technology to get a better crop yield. In essence, it means that there will be more food available for people within Africa. You're able to determine using satellite the inventory available even for that crop. You're also able to monitor demand and production. So all in all, these are some of my own experiences with innovation and also trying to use technology to solve problems within the African space. Now we can go to the audience for us to look at a problem within Nigeria or Africa, and then let's try and, within us, let's talk about how to provide a solution to that problem. So who has a problem that they want to share, and then we can try and look at how to provide a solution. Nonso, are you still on?
I am still on, but I was just thinking. I mean, when I heard my name, I was called from my thoughts because I was just thinking in my head, what problem can we solve? What problem can we solve?
Yeah.
So I haven't come up with any problem yet. I don't know if any other person has a problem that they can clearly articulate.
Let's start with the basic one. I don't know, as in maybe electricity. Take, for example, electricity.
Okay. So she's talked about a problem, a society problem, electricity. So when we're talking about electricity, how is electricity a problem to our society? So should we define that first?
I want to give room for others to answer. Maybe some other person can answer that.
I think an easy example of the menace that lack of electricity in our society is causing is the fact that we cannot industrialize as quickly as our counterparts because we just don't have enough power to do that. So,
okay,
and then the cost it then goes on to affect cost of production and cost of doing business in the country. So,
okay, industrialization, and we're saying cost of doing business. So who else wants to talk about why we need to, what exactly electricity is?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why electricity is a major problem in Nigeria, when we look at the healthcare system we have, majority of the health centers you go to, you find them running on diesel oftentimes. So the access they have to electricity in a day is barely 4 or 5 hours.
Okay.
The remainder of the day they run on diesel. That is one. And another aspect in terms of education now. What do I mean when I talk about aspect of education now? I have been to some schools where you see they have good facilities in terms of information and communication technology. They have them in place. But the major problem they are facing is the issue of electricity to run them. And you find out that so many of those facilities are just lying idle there, wasting without being put to use. I mean, if there's electricity, definitely those things can be put to use in terms of research. Those who have access to them can use them to make researches and make meaningful contribution to the development of society. So I think in those two areas, electricity is a major problem.
Thank you for your contribution. Who else wants to make a comment on this? Anybody?
This is more of a question than a comment, and I don't know if this is pulling us ahead. But
Okay.
when we I just want to know, when we say electricity is a problem in Nigeria, what parts do we mean? Do we mean generation is a problem? What exactly is the problem? Is it in the transmission? Is it in the generation? Where is the issue, the bottleneck? I think that would be a good way for us to even figure out how to work our way out of it. Thank you.
Who else wants to talk about electricity?
Okay, carry on, sorry.
Yeah, based on what Jennifer suggested now, I think in terms of generation, we have serious issues there. Also in terms of transmission, because presently that is still in the hands of the federal government. The generation has been privatized, and so also the distribution. In all of these three aspects, the generation, transmission, distribution, we have serious issues there. For anybody who resides in Nigeria, we know we have serious issues there, despite huge amount that is being pumped into that sector. So for generation, there are issues there, there are enormous issues there. Transmission, there are enormous issues there. Distribution too. So I think we can just start with any of the three. We have issues in those three aspects. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution. I think somebody wanted to make a contribution.
Yeah, I wanted to add to something, as in she asked the question. So I wanted to say something like, with regarding electricity, I feel, I don't know, because I have not done my research properly with the amount of energy that's in Nigeria that is being generated. But I feel that the supply is limited, like they don't get enough supply of electricity. So I don't know if it's as a result of the electricity that they are producing is not enough. I don't know. I've not done my research, like I said. So it's just the end product, like getting electricity to the masses. It's a big issue for people, and it restricts people from innovation. Also requires you going wild, as in going far, going to remote places, and to get, like you said, in the manufacturing side of things, getting your raw materials, you have to go far, go deep and everything. But places like that, do they really have electricity to produce? This is just my thoughts. Like, yeah.
Thank you, Georgette. Thank you for your comments. Any other person wants to say something? Okay, we've talked about.
Tega here.
Any other person? Tega, okay, thank you, Tega.
Yes. I want to borrow leave from my brother Adekunle. One of the problems I think we in Niger Delta are facing is not in generation. I think it's in transmission and distribution. Why I'm saying this is because my wife served in the north, Kebbi to be precise. And according to our testimony, hardly you will hear or see power failure. So I think Nigeria is generating enough electricity, but the distribution and transmission has been politicized, so to speak, because it is not being shared fairly. You see, in South-South, we scarcely get sufficient power. With this, our new current administration in Bayelsa State, we've seen over the radio and TV where they held meetings with the private distribution companies, promising minimum of 12 hours per day on a daily basis. Please, we are not seeing that happen. So it's an issue. We are generating enough power, but they are not being distributed fairly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Who else?
Yeah, one more thing concerning what Tega just mentioned right now regarding the interface between the transmission and distribution. Actually, because I follow that sector closely, one of the major problems there is the transmission. Those who are in charge of transmission, they usually accuse the distributors, the distribution companies, that whenever they supply electricity to them, they usually drop down, like they reject the load that is being sent to them. And hearing from the side of the distribution company also, what they will say is what they are actually sending to them, the facility they have on ground does not really have the carryability. I mean, it cannot carry that kind of energy. So that is why they reject it most of the time. So I think to put it succinctly now, where we have the major problem is the interface between transmission and distribution.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Who else wants to make a comment? Comment, question? Okay. So we've all talked about this problem. How can we solve it? Because from what we've talked about, we've said electricity will help us achieve industrialization. We've said electricity will help cost of doing business to go down. If the cost of doing business goes down, naturally you achieve industrialization. You would be able to create employment. You would be able to provide better healthcare. Your education system will probably operate better. So what can we do? Yes, I'm the one standing on this side, but I don't know it all. So what can we do?
I think electricity is an interesting topic that we've brought up in this module, being that we're talking about innovation. like we all, or like a few of us or all of us would know, there's a current energy transition in the world. People are moving away from the more novel, traditional sources of electricity, and they were looking outside the things we already know. So it might be an important time for Nigeria, for policy in the country, to stand on the side of innovation, to look at to look at new technologies, to look at solar power and see what we can do with it, to look at wind, to look at other technologies. Let's not focus too much on, in my opinion, I would say, maybe this is a time to not focus too much on repairing the grid that we already have now to transmit better. Maybe we should be looking at incorporating other sources and, distributing in a whole entirely different way. I mean, I'm not an electrical engineer or a power specialist, so I don't really know. But I think the first thing would be for policy to be standing on the right side of history right now, which is trying to find a better way to do things more sustainably. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So in summary, you're saying, let's consider other sources of power. We shouldn't try to start to repair distribution lines. Policy needs to change, a clear and concise policy as to what we are going to do. So any other comments on solutions, electricity?
Solution, yes, sir. Tega.
Yes. Tega, please.
Yes. Let me borrow a little from what Jato just said. Over here in Bayelsa, we have two companies, major oil companies, whom have built I don't know the measurement precisely, but a good level of, a good capacity of turbine, gas turbine for their own consumption. And they've made host communities beneficiaries to this facility. Okay, so on one end, we're still holding government responsible because they are there to serve us. So we'll not stop. We'll still hold them responsible. Nonetheless, we've seen that these other people are showing interest and carrying the communities along, and it's even good. Matter of fact, here in LNG, Bayelsa, in Igbagba, the government house came and drew power from here to government house. The distance is very far. Yes, that is very far.
Government house.
They are not using our
in Bayelsa.
Yes, they are not using our lights. Yes, it's taking light from LNG in Igua, a far distance from where government house is.
So
it's working.
What's this distance? What's this distance? How far?
Okay, in driving distance, it will take you, I'm not exaggerating, 45 minutes.
What?
45 minutes.
So what happens to all the community between LNG and the government house?
If you tamper with their lights, you have trespassed. You could be arrested.
Okay.
You see the thing now. So they are in power, so they have the rights to benefit what the people who voted them into power can benefit.
Okay. So what can we do in, for example, in your
support? Okay.
So
on the part of
Tega, just to bring you back a little bit. So you're saying LNG, they are providing power for the host community, and even the government house is getting power from there. So what do you think can be done to ensure that, so it's 45 minutes between the government house and this location? What do you think can be done for the community that are within that space, within that 45 minutes journey, to ensure that at least that community gets light?
Okay, that's a good one. However, let me be frank with you. I won't support such a move, because the power here is as monopolized by the two host communities. So, matter of fact, let me just tell you this: it's supposed to be a third community. Actually, 3 communities are serving the LNG, but the third community went for money settlement once and for all. Don't give us power, settle us with money. That was back then in history. We're all hearing the story. Yes, it happened here.
So
I can never tell you
Nonso,
the name of the community.
Nonso, can you
they
see
did
the
that.
problems?
Yes. So they've cut themselves off. So the remaining two communities will not allow any other third party. All right. Then what I think we should also do at the other end of the privatized government electricity distribution process. We've seen here in Bayelsa where one of the former IYC chairman, the Ijaw Youth Council chairman, led a peaceful protest to the power distribution company office, shut them down peacefully, all right, protested that the issue of lack of power is too much. Neighboring states are having at least minimum power supply, but over here in Bayelsa is zero. But it happened to telecom businesses as well. But the one that was very significant is the power holding companies. And there was a resolve. There was a meeting held in the government house, and they came to a resolve. Frankly, for a month or two, we saw light on the average. But after the guys' tenure ended, we're back to square zero. So perhaps I think we should keep protesting peacefully and shut their office so that they can't give us. That's my suggestion.
Okay, I think it will just be unreasonable to keep protesting on a monthly basis, year in, year out, just to achieve this. So I think we need to look for better ways to still achieve this result. So any suggestions from anybody? How can we ensure there is electricity in the country?
Mr. Raphael.
Yes.
First and foremost, concerning tackling the issue of electricity in Nigeria, first thing has to do with the political will of the Nigerian leadership.
So
you that
will?
Yes, that's number one. Now, my own suggestion is this: it would be preferable if each region is to generate electricity based on the source of electricity that is available in the environment.
Okay.
I recently moved back to Lagos. Moved back to Lagos from Sokoto. And one thing I can tell you, the weather environment over there is adequate sunlight. I mean, there's adequate sunlight that is enough to generate more than enough electricity for those people over there. So in a kind of environment like that, I see no reason why I see no reason why the government should be wasting money transmitting energy all the way, transmitting gas all the way from the Niger Delta down there to power another energy. Why can't they just generate energy for those people who are in that region based on the fact that they have adequate sunlight there? It should generate energy for them, energy that can be, electricity from sunlight source. Back here in the West, where we know we have coastal areas, we are close to water areas, fine, there are new ways of generating electricity. Very, very cheap ways that they can use to generate electricity for those of us who are here in the area where we know that, yes, there is enough water bodies. Also in other environments where they know, yes, there is adequate wind. When you go to some part of the north too, you realize that there are some states there that the wind there, they are kind of heavy compared to where I am now. So we can it's not necessary that all the country should be focused, should depend on those one source of electricity. Those who have access to sunlight, they should generate electricity for that region based on sunlight. Those who are in the coastal areas, let them generate electricity for them based on water. And those who are in environments where we have wind, so at least we can, by so doing, I think we can just nip this issue of having to transport gas all the way from Bayelsa, Niger Delta down to Kaduna to power energy for people in the north to use. By so doing, we can just reduce cost of all of these things. So that's my own suggestion.
Thank you for your contribution. Who else wants to make any contribution? So we have 3 more minutes for anybody to make a contribution. So I can see Turaki, more electrical transmission infrastructure, such as transformer, energy storage. Okay, that's a suggestion, more electrical transmission. Yes, there's energy storage. It's that's new innovations going on around. Anyone else?
I think someone mentioned solar earlier on.
Yes.
And being, as in using solar energy, as in maybe we should look more into solar energy, because Africa, one thing that Africa has is sunlight. Like
Abundance of sunlight.
we have enough sunlight, you know, all through the year. So it's something we can really harness. Like it's something we can be very innovative about. You understand? Like bringing it out to the rural areas, as in everywhere in Nigeria, because that's something that would, you know, our natural resources, that this is something that is natural, that we can never run out of. We can never run out of sunlight. So we can harness what we have, and it will be cheap at the end of the day. So it's just a suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. Who else wants to make a contribution? And then we can find a way to come up with our own solution for Nigeria. Any other person? Okay. I think in summary, the solutions suggested seem to focus on Nigeria considering other sources, and that we shouldn't repair existing distribution lines. Policy needs to change. I agree that policy needs to change in terms of what we can do, what individuals. I believe that the starting point for us as a nation typically is to start from the smallest units within the country. The smallest units would be one house. From one house, you can move to a ward. From one ward, you can move to a local government. From a local government, you can move to a state. I'm a believer of solving Nigeria's problem from the grassroots, so from the ground up, rather than from top down. It usually does not work from top down. That's what we've seen from statistics. Some of what we said is there needs to be a political will. Some of the solutions says each region needs to generate its own electricity, and then more electrical transmission, energy storage. Have anybody in this room heard of wireless transmission of electricity? And now we're talking about innovation. Has anybody heard of wireless transmission of electricity before? Where you don't need those transmission lines to transmit electricity. Okay, Omotolani Ajala. Okay, do you want to tell us about wireless transmission of electricity?
Actually, I heard from a colleague of mine, and I was wondering, how is that possible? Someone came to market it for a neighbor. So she got to the office next day and she started telling us about the old wireless. And I was just wondering that, I was just telling her that, can the person come and let's really know? It sounds like a very good idea. but we didn't really hear anything about it. So I've heard she talked about it, and I think there's a company here. I'm in Oyo State presently, and I think there's a company tackling that problem, but they're not really, a lot of people, it's always difficult to go into the community and market this kind of innovation. So I think they're still trying to break grounds. So
okay.
I would really love to hear more about it.
More about it, okay. All right, so I'm aware of technology being developed in, I believe it's in Asia, where you can transmit wirelessly rather than using poles. Now, and this is some of the things we're talking about in terms of innovation in Africa. If we're trying to solve our problems, the people in the West, they don't have that problem. They don't have all of this transmission and distribution problem. Yes, I can say to you for a fact that there are a lot of power plants in Nigeria. Some of those power plants don't even get enough gas. Some of them are just not functioning at optimum capacity. For example, one of the companies I sit on, we work on a particular power plant called the Alaoji Power Plant somewhere in the east. And I'm aware that they don't even get gas that often. I think that gas supply is meant to come from OML 58, NOPL OUR pipeline. So there are always issues with regards to generation, transmission, distribution. And I think the best solution we can come to is if policy helps individuals, each house, government supports people. In the UK, for example, a lot of new houses being built comes automatic with solar. Even though, imagine there is electricity, they don't have electricity problem. But yet, because of energy transition, automatic, when you're building a house, now, most of the new houses, they come with solar. And those are the sort of policy we need to see, where government is trying to encourage house development with their own electricity. Now, within a housing unit, the biggest power you usually would use sometimes would be air condition. Are you aware that there are air condition that run on gas that you don't need electricity for? Is anybody aware in this room that there are air conditions that you don't need electricity for it? So what we're trying to say today is by coming together as one to focus on what our problems are, we can find a solution to fix this problem in our own little way. So if you're in your house, you're heating in your house, for example, you're boiling most people will use heater to get hot water. If you have your hot water and you can use solar to power your hot water, and you can use solar to power everything in the house, your air condition, you can use gas, then it means that your power requirement from the national grid would almost be zero. So maybe if there is less dependence on the national grid, and from each ward, from each local government, there is policy to support generation from alternative sources, our problems can be fixed. Now, and that is on a domestic level. Now, because for domestic level, I believe we shouldn't be talking about problems for domestic level right now. What we need power for, based on what we've talked about, industrialization, we want to fix healthcare. In fact, for education, alternative sources, solar can work for education. Healthcare, it can work for healthcare. For big industries, power plants can work for them. And I believe there are enough power plants in the country at the moment or currently in the process that should be able to service big industries. So if we dedicate the bigger power plants for the big industries, and there is less requirements from domestic front, from healthcare, if all government buildings as a policy can run on alternative source of electricity, then maybe we start to get closer to solving this problem. Now, I believe you've learned one or two things from our discussion today. I believe it's a discussion that will continue. Thank you all for coming.